What does January, Oklahoma, and Tulsa time all have to do with each other? That's right, the Chili Bowl Nationals, which is going to be coming up here in just a few short weeks. And we grab Chili Bowl publicist Brian Holbert for a short interview here on Track Talk to talk about all the great things that happened last year, as well as the things that will be happening this year. That is coming up next after these messages. Dave's Home Supply specializes in cabinets, flooring, and countertops. Visit their website at daveshomesupply.com to look at products, services, financing, and even a free estimate. Are you looking for bookkeeping, payroll, or income tax services? Then check out the folks at For You Simple Bookkeeping. They are a licensed tax preparer throughout the entire United States. For more information, click on the link in the description. Well, joining me on Track Talk, he's the publicist for the Chili Bowl Nationals that'll be kicking off here in just a little bit for the month of January. Brian Holbert. Brian, it's been a while since you and I have talked. It's great to always to catch up with you, and no doubt this event is marquee, top shelf quality.
Chili Bowl is a monster unto itself. I swear every year it's like it can't get any bigger, and somehow it manages to defy the odds and expectations. So we're looking forward to it. Of course, we got to get to the shootout first, and that's another beast.
Yeah, that one's really crazy. The only thing I can really compare it to is like the IMCA Super Nationals in Boone, with just so much going on all the time with all sorts of different classes. It just seems like from sun up to well past sundown, race after race after race.
Yeah, I'll show up and the sun is up, and when I leave, the sun is down. So it's a lot of fun, though. We're a little bit ahead on entries. We had 1539 last year when we cut off. We're at 1608 right now. And we always pick up anywhere from 100 to 200 entries when we open it back up on move-in day. So we're on record watch for sure for the shootout. Chili Bowl, we're just north of 350 entries right now, which is about on par with where we've been the last few years. So, you're still looking at high car counts at both events, and a lot of fun to go with it.
No doubt. I know that there's a tension with, some guys that may not be there, but that's not to take away that this event is just as tough, if not tougher, because everybody is hungry for that win to mark, because last year a new Chili Bowl champion, 23rd different Chili Bowl champion with Logan Seavey.
It's like any event. If you want to race, race. If you don't. If you want to go race somewhere else, go race somewhere else. They can have their opinion of what it is or what it pays or anything like that. So look at the backside of the event and understand what it actually physically costs to put on this event, to rent the building, to pay the staff, to get the dirt in and out, to set everything up, get everything back out. It's astronomical. So, and then two, it's like leasing a racetrack. We're leasing a building, and we don't have concession. We don't have beer. Everybody likes to make the argument of, they're making so much money off of food and beer. No, we don't. We don't get 1 red cent off of that. So,
yeah, not a typical setup.
Perspective's a two-way street. So, but we're very thankful for everybody that races this event and has made this event what it is. Without the teams, without the fans, we're just playing around inside a big building.
Yeah, well, and it's such a hard event just to make the championship feature, right, Saturday night, because there's so many barriers that stand in the way, and really the first time you hit the racetrack, if things go wrong, you're already leagues deep in a hole.
The good thing about the format of the Chili Bowl is it helps you kind of overcome some of those hurdles, because, okay, you come out, you struggle in your heat race, but you still make a qualifier. And you've seen this firsthand when we would do this format sometimes with ASCS up in the Northwest. Mm-hmm. You can dig yourself out through that qualifier and make yourself, and put yourself in a good position to either be right there at the cusp of making the A main or race right in. And we've seen a lot of drivers do that. So you do have to do everything, I guess you can say, right from the word go. You do have to have a little bit of that Chili Bowl luck go your way, but there's also the chance to dig your way out. And we've seen drivers over the years, night in and night out, do that. So, and then once you get to the Alphabet on Saturday, that's kind of where legends are made. That's where, J.J. Yaley racing all the way up into the A main, Jason McDougall, the drive he had a couple of years ago, Chris Carroll race from the end, raced through 7 features last year.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, marching orders are simple to get to championship Saturday. Do good in your heat, make the qualifier, make your prelim feature. Winning your prelim feature isn't a guarantee, like write my name on the check, but it sure kind of helps. It's like you might want to uncap the marker. Last year, 3 of the top 5 won their prelim features, which I mean, definitely tough. And those prelim features are, I think, even, grade A plus as far as quality for when you stack up just everything credentials wise and all that for just a normal race in the country.
Well, and it's interesting with the prelim nights because, we take this humongous field of just very talented, well-versed drivers and we break them down into 5 nights, and you don't really face each other until Saturday. So it's interesting to see how the dominoes fall in that. For last year, you had Hank Davis, relatively unknown kid at Sand Springs, Oklahoma, races around here, has done some ASCS, done some OCRS, done a little bit of USAC and Power I, comes in and wins his prelim night. And that just goes back to show you the dark horse is still very much viable when it comes to the Chili Bowl. Then he, puts it on the front row of the main.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not just the big name drivers that have maybe a break or have that moment that really stands out. We saw that last year, and now he's going full-time USAC racing in 2024.
Well, and it's a showcase to get yourself kind of looked at. All eyes are the whole racing world basically that week is all eyes are on Tulsa.
Yeah, it's crazy. Excuse me. This will be my 13th year, and it's insane just to look back. When I first started, back when it was Racing Boys, and it was the audio broadcast, to see how much the event has changed in terms of car count, in terms of how we run the event, when we run the event, adding qualifying nights, restructuring, moving the race to champions, adding practice. It's incredible how this event morphs every year, and it's from the very subtle to the major, and I've kind of seen a little bit of all of it so far.
Well, and what's really cool is it's really a melting pot event. You've got the USAC regulars, you've got wing sprint car drivers, you've got, guys that, Tim McCready, who's won this event before, a dirt late model guy with a big block modified background as well. You've got a melting pot of all sorts of disciplines, and that's super, super cool to see. No,
it is.
And, obviously micro guys that have been able to transition really well too. That's a super cool thing also.
It is. And, and I brought up Chris Carroll earlier with the run that he had going through the soup last year. He's a micro guy. He races Port City.
Yeah. Well, and then McDougal, I think that was a big, to me at least, not completely connected with the micro sprint world, at least in the middle of the country. I remember he had a really good run, and that was kind of my first notice of him. And it definitely it's definitely the theater dreams when it comes to midget racing.
Yeah, it's you talk about the melting pot. You mentioned Tim McCready and Ricky Thornton, and now look what Ricky Thornton's doing with giving 20 teams these low budget teams $500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's going to be a neat deal. And it's neat when somebody has that kind of success and can look back and has the ability and the opportunity to help some of these smaller teams. And that's going to create a fan base, and it's going to create a following for the rest of his career because he did that, because he stepped up and helped somebody.
No doubt. I mean, the more the merrier, more entries, the more interest, the more fans. It's a win-win for everybody.
It is. Of course, it's crazy to look at the Chili Bowl and look at the shootout and see the differences in the two, where, Chili Bowl, crowd-wise, very highly attended every day. You've got this incredible field of cars, and the shootout, by all accounts, is actually bigger in terms of just in sheer quantity of cars, drivers, everything that goes on, the number of laps, everything that goes into it. It just doesn't have the daily crowd. Now, Saturday, or in this case, it'll be Sunday this year at the shootout, them stands are full. But it's just the odd differences between the events. And now you look at them, and this has really started to pick up over the last about 6 or 7 years, where you've got guys coming in and running the shootout to get laps for the Chili Bowl.
Yeah.
Stevie's one of them this year. Courtney's one of them. He's in one of Christopher Bell's cars. So, it's become kind of a testing ground for some of these guys that want to come in and get some laps if they're able to do so.
Well, and that kind of goes back to practice. You've got your practice time that you can have, and also pretty important, I think, something that is can't be overlooked is qualifying for the Race of Champions is, again, another opportunity, because this is a racetrack that's only around for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks out of the year, as far as existing. And this deal it's not like you can go and test in the middle of summer.
Yeah. And we try to get it. Gravel and Steve and everybody involved in the track process, they do everything they can to try to get it year to year as close to what we've had. But there's always going to be those little subtle changes, those nuances. The berm might be, a little bit more pitched here than it was last year. The wall might not be quite as angled as it was going in as it was last year. And it's neat to watch the whole process play out. And it's all done by tape measure and feel. Yeah. There's no GPS, there's no laser. Everything is done. We know where to go to measure, how to measure, and that's what we're going off of.
Handcrafted.
Literally from the ground up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I remember, I was flipping through YouTube the other day, what was it, 2008? I think, what was it, HBO had, it was a big deal, pay-per-view. You could watch the Chili Bowl. That was a huge deal that I think made this event, it was already swinging, right? And I think it really opened the eyes for a lot of people that perhaps had no opportunity to go there, or maybe just a little interest to go there, to be like, oh my gosh, I need to be there.
Well, the first time I remember watching the Chili Bowl, there was a swap meet in El Paso, and it was put on by Jay Jonas, Kim McDaniel at Avenger Chassis. Mm-hmm. And that we did the swap meet during the day, and at night, it was the pay-per-view of the Chili Bowl. And that was the first time I'd ever watched it. In fact, that was the year that Tim McCready won.
Okay. Oh, that would have been 06, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, and I think the first year I watched it, the Demon got it, Damian Gardner, which was a big deal. Well, it's always a big deal when you win the Chili Bowl, but that was a big deal because, Dave Darlin swinging in his prime, and Smoke was there. JJ Yaley, I think, had some crazy motorcycle tire. It was, he was
in the Bondio car.
Yeah. And then, but then again, it was the first time I had really seen Cole Witt, when I think he was driving for, obviously connected with Red Bull back in those days. And then to see Brad Sweet again, who I hadn't seen in a while, Brady Bacon as well. I think Bacon was in KKR with a KKR at the time.
Well, and that's a driver who, Chili Bowl wise, is definitely due some better results. Shootout, he's got the drillers, but Brady, he's going to be one this year. I feel like he's probably a little more hungry than ever to try to get that golden driller.
And what would your predictions be if he won that race? Would they be ripping the fencing down? That place would just go wild?
Oh yeah, it'd be that. That party would not stop until they got to Florida to kick off the USAC season.
Yeah. Well,
but there's a lot of drivers on the entry list I look at, and I look at their stats and I look at how they do, and I could probably rattle off a half a dozen right now where it's man, they're due. It just, everything has to come together.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's just got to click just right. And And what was cool about last year's deal is, because sometimes it's, oh, well, there wasn't any passing, and it just happens to be how the stoppages go, right? If it's 2 laps yellow, 2 laps green, then all that stuff. Well, it makes it tough. But last year there was lots of passing.
And there was, unfortunately, there at the very end, the track did lock down around the bottom, and that. Everybody always remembers the last 5 laps. I don't remember the 50 laps leading up to it.
Yeah.
And, and they're able to go back. And I can tell you how dedicated Gravel is to his craft in building that track and maintaining it. He took samples from the track immediately following the race, bagged them up, took them to OSU to have them analyzed, just to find out, where are we missing? Is there something here that we're not seeing? Just because he wanted to know. So for anybody to think that, Gravel or Steve or any of them are slacking or, they don't know what they're doing. Oh no, they care very, very much.
Well, and it's that dedication of always wanting to perform better, right? Race car drivers want to do better. Us as journalists or announcers, we always want to do better. Like the moment we settle, that's going to be a bad day. I admire that. And, the easiest thing in the world that they could do is just be like, hey, sorry, don't know what to tell you, but instead it's like, where can we find some extraness to make this better? Because the racing will be better. It'll be better for the drivers, better for the fans, better for everybody.
And yes, and we do have to take time to prep the track, and we do have to, unfortunately, sometimes we have a little bit of downtime, but we're always looking at that going, okay, how do we speed that up? How do we make it better? Because just like their dedication to making the track as good as possible, our dedication is how do we make the show better? How do we make it run more efficient? And there has to be built-in time there because you only have so much time. You have all the cars, and it's not like being on an outdoor surface where you have different variables to help the track along. Being indoor, there's a lot that you can bring from the outdoor, but there's so much that trying to prep the track inside with a concrete floor and going from 4 foot of dirt to maybe 6 or 7 inches of dirt, or clay in this case, there's a heck of a challenge there.
Yeah, no doubt. And the thing that I believe folks need to consider and stuff, and I think for the most part fans are understanding, is if there's a comparison between Hollywood and theater, is dirt track racing is theater. Like you go out, sometimes stuff happens, but you just play through it, right? Or you just go through it. Whereas, Hollywood, it's like, let's just do another take. Let's just start fresh, and go kind of deal.
Yeah, we don't have that opportunity. It's, we got to try to get it right the first time. And sometimes, just like in theater, sometimes you have to ad-lib a little bit, but we certainly don't like doing that.
Yeah, no, we don't. But something to note too, last year's championship feature, 3 drivers going at least plus 10 in the main event. Tim Buckwalter at plus 14 finished 9th. The plus 13 for Tim McCready we've been talking about finished 11th, and then 6th place Kyle Jones was a plus 10. Pretty cool, pretty remarkable, and a green white checkered finish to shoot to kind of conclude everything and make it an exciting finish.
Yeah, so certainly just by that, you can't say there wasn't any passing.
No. That's really and the amount of talent in the A-Main, obviously just incredible, but also filled with all the storylines and everything. That's what I love about this event, is there's endless storylines that you could go into every heat race really and just pick it apart.
Oh, I mean, if you're a journalist, it's a dream, because literally throw a stone, there's a story somewhere.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the deal in Raiders of the Lost Ark where they find it in the snake pit. Sure enough, you're going to find something that moves and you can grab a hold of and talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so for folks that perhaps are thinking about coming to the Chili Bowl, they've never been, or perhaps some folks that are maybe just going to follow along, what are some best outlets as far to follow along throughout the week?
So obviously the live coverage flag to flag, both events for Shootout and Chili Bowl is going to be flowracing.com. It's all a part of the subscription. It's not an extra charge. So you're set right there. Online, of course, we have our Facebook page. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter. We're on Instagram. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, hey, you need to follow Walkapedia. You need to follow some of these other guys that are there because, you know, they do a great job of also covering the event. So if you're on social, make sure you're following Chili Bowl, make sure you're following Shootout, make sure you're following Walkapedia as well because, you know, there's going to be a lot of information that, you know, you might miss if you're not following a little bit of everybody.
No doubt. And that's the great thing is all the extensive coverage. You know, an event is really good when so many people are doing a great job covering it.
Yeah, it's, you know, sometimes I look at social media as, man, if they're talking about you, could be great. Other times, you may just want to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But I'm really looking forward to tuning in. I'll be in Arizona with some racing down there, but looking forward to seeing how everything plays out, and maybe we'll see a 24th different Chili Bowl Nationals champion or a repeat winner.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be fun.
This episode is a production of Highside Racing Promotions. Be sure to like the YouTube as well as Facebook page and like these videos. The more likes and the more attention it gets, and we would like to get as much information out to the racing community. Whenever or wherever you're watching these episodes, we hope that you enjoyed them